Joining me to dig deep on Africa this week is Dr. Ama Onyerima, founder, Live Abundantly Empowerment Initiative. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Very quickly, what are your thoughts on the plight of the girl child in Africa and around the world?
Well, it is of great concern and it should be of great concern to everyone, that so many of the girls in the developing nations, about 1 million of them, 600 million of them don't have access to quality education or a lifestyle that will enable them to contribute to their personal progress or the progress of a nation.
The girl child in Africa and in most developing countries seem to be at the receiving end with social bias and cultural norms. How can we start changing this narrative?
Well, the change begins with an understanding that we must have changed the perception of what it means to be a girl child. Education is necessary, as well as community efforts to improve the setting for girls, not just in developing nations, but throughout the world. We live in a world where girls are seen as second-class citizens. We live in a world where the abuse of girls is prevalent. We live in a world where women, even working women, because girls are women at the end of the day, do not earn the same wages as men and are subject to bias, harassment, abuse, even in the workplace. We live in a world where girls are forced into early marriage. We live in a world where girls do not have access to proper education or even health facilities or services.
Inequality even in the workplace. Well, according to statistics, 12 million girls under the age of 18 will be married this year, and 21 million girls aged 15 to 19 years will become pregnant in developing regions. Most of these pregnancies now are either unplanned or even unwanted. What is responsible for this?
I hate to repeat this. We have many factors. One, cultural bias. When you see girls as nothing but sexual objects or objects of gratification or objects or the vessels for bearing children, then you change your attitude towards them. The reality is boys and girls do grow up to be adults, and if given equal opportunity, equal education, access to skills, access to jobs, that they will, at the end of the day, be able to take care of themselves, their family, and contribute to their communities. We know that when we educate a girl, it changes the perspective for her family, her immediate family, as well as her community. We know that when we educate boys, they tend to think more about themselves and what they're going to do for themselves and their immediate family. So that shift in thinking, it needs to occur. In terms of the laws that we have on the books, and we have the UN human rights, we have child rights in Nigeria and everywhere else in the world. If you're a member nation of the United Nations, you have signed that agreement and you're supposed to enact it. But the reality is that these things are not being enforced. I mentioned very earlier that we estimate, or the estimate is that there are 1 billion children, youth, adolescents, however you wish to categorize them, in the world, and 600 million of those are girls. One of the things that we're pushing for is that these 600 million girls have access to primary education, secondary education, that they get skills. I mean, when you have skills, then you have better access to jobs. But we also need to go beyond that and encourage them to go to university. We need to stop this culture of trafficking girls so that they're sexual objects to men and sometimes women in other parts of the world. We need to stop this culture of marrying off our girls at 10, 11, 12. Once they reach, puberty, they get married off. And of course, we all know that once they're married and they have children at a very young age, then we're dealing with health concerns like fistula. And at the end of the day, they really cannot be of any benefit to themselves or their family. They're too young. Anyone who is having intercourse with a girl under 18 is violating them. It doesn't matter if you're married to them. It is a violation. So there's so many factors that we have to work on. And I think the most important thing here is educating our girls, investing in our girls through education, through mentoring, through community activities that we do so that they are empowered and they know that they deserve more and they can push for more for themselves as well.
So how is an initiative like yours mobilizing for the implementation of these UN roles?
Well, it starts with the things that we do at the school level, at the district level, and then we also have community activities. So this past week, we commemorated the UN Girl Child Day by having an event. Did I lose you?
No, no.
Okay, fantastic. We had an event where we commemorated the UN Girl Child Day by having an event at the hearing impaired school locally, the Wesley School for Hearing Impaired Students. We thought it was very important because, you know, we talk about girls, but we're not talking about the girls who are dealing with physiological differences. You can only imagine to what extent these girls are suffering under these conditions, where some of them, if they're lucky, do go to school, but the majority of them have no access to school. And even when they do go to school, like we heard on Thursday at our event, they go home and they're basically like housemaids. They're there to care for the family, and they're not being given equal opportunity as their own siblings. So we do feel that it's important to diversify how we interact with girls, not just girls who have full use of all their senses, but girls who are also dealing with physiological differences, because they're the ones who are scarred in a way that is more devastating than you can imagine.
Dr. Amma, do we really have enough government policies that frown at crimes against the girl child?
That's a very good question. Do we have policies? Yes. Do we enact the policies and follow them? You know the answer to that question. Not really.
So how do you react to this, really?
You continue to spread the message. You continue to go to the community and go to the schools and teach the young ones. I truly believe that this next generation coming up is incredibly aware of what's going on. They've got social media. They've got access to everything going on around the world. And they are going to demand that more is done for themselves, both the girls and the boys. But we're really focused on the girls because the disparity in access to education, in access to jobs, is apparent, is blatant. You know, you only have to pick up the paper and read about the level of violence that these girls are suffering, even in their own homes, when you have parents, fathers, uncles, brothers molesting members of their families. It is troubling. So when you disrespect them in the home, why else should anyone respect them outside of the home?
Well, would you say consistent action has matched advocacy in reversing these negative trends befalling the girl child?
Well, I would like to believe that it is. I think what we have is more of an awareness, but we're not approaching the solutions. We're not prosecuting perpetrators. We're not encouraging or pushing for more girls, even those with physiological differences, to access school at an early age. You know, you can go to some of these schools and find out that a 10-year-old is in kindergarten. You and I know a 10-year-old should be beyond kindergarten. But if the parents are ashamed of their children with physiological differences and they're hiding them at home, and it takes so long to get them into the school system, then we're literally limiting how much education, how many skills they can develop, and their access to work. The truth of the matter is, girls who have access to the economic system can take care of themselves, take care of their families, and contribute to the community and the society at large.
That's another aspect of the girl child we have not really looked into, physiological differences. Dr. Amma Onyerima, founder, Live Abundantly Empowerment Initiative, thank you for joining me on Africa This Week.
Thank you for having me.